Hello there. My name is Margaret Vegge, but I'm sure you all know that because you've all been to my store down there at Renfro Variety. If you lived in town or just visited town and you came in to visit me, you knew what a great store it was. I see a few people here that I don't know, so maybe afterwards you could stick around and we can maybe get acquainted and I get to find out about you and your family. You know, I don't know that my life was any more special than anybody else's, but the nice people at the Rock County History Center asked me to tell a little bit about my life. I was born October 24th, 1915, to Talek and Johanna Helly Vegge. I grew up on a farm which is located in Laverne Township, straight west of the airport where the Stegingas live now. I had 4 siblings, Carl, Tilda, Trygve, and Norman. We lived on this farm and had chores to do. We were brought up Norwegian, and good Norwegians always worked hard. We did our chores without any complaint, most of the time. I went to District 4 country school, all 8 grades, and I walked 1.5 miles to school every day. Then I went to Laverne High School for 4 years, graduating in 1933. I always wanted to be a teacher, so I attended 1 year of normal teachers training at the Laverne High School. I taught at District 4, the Ash Creek District, District 16 and 57. Then I attended Mankato Teachers College for several summers. I taught for 13 years and I loved it. You know, I had a few boyfriends in my life, but I was determined to have a career. I just wasn't ready to get married. Sometimes the fellas you went out with, you know, they wanted to get married, but I wasn't about to then. I didn't ever find anybody who made me jump up and down. But I wasn't sorry that I wasn't married. I got to go on lots of trips. I went to Norway, New York, California, and Florida. And being a single person, I had a lot of good help from my nieces and nephews over the years, and you might remember some of them. There was Carol, Fred, Daryl, Connie, Audrey Jean, and Martha. And Connie still lives around here. Back to my early life, in 1948, after Thanksgiving, I started working at Renfro Variety, and I liked it, so I stayed. Don and Mary Renfro were my guides and teachers in the business world. I purchased the store. I became manager in 1961, and I purchased the store in 1968, which was a big decision for me, but it was a good decision. I didn't change the name of the store because the Renfro Variety name had a good, solid reputation. I worked 6 days a week and 12 long hours on Christmas season. For some reason, I thrived on hard work and long hours. I drove in from the farm where I lived with my parents until we bought a house on Freeman Avenue, which was kitty corner from the Carnegie Center. My backdoor neighbors, I had wonderful neighbors, and my backdoor neighbors were Vance and Doris Ebert. Doris had the same birthday that I did. So every October 24th, I would go over to their house when I got home from work, and we'd exchange birthday greetings, and then she'd give us a piece of cake. We had a good time. Many of my customers were the more frugal generation and generally over the age of 50. You could always find things to buy like lampshades, cotton underwear, plastic rain bonnets, stamped embroidered pillowcases, hankies, aprons, ribbon by the inch or yard, knickknacks, puzzles, games, and toy soldiers. And we didn't forget about the kids because we had penny candy, like atomic fireballs, red and black licorice, bazooka bubblegum, Hershey Kisses, gumdrops, and those little boxes of chiclets which came with 2 pieces in every box. One of the most interesting things that I sold was a pot and pan repair kit that cost just a little over $1. It came with round metal pieces, a screw, and a washer that people could use to plug a hole in their favorite pan. Nowadays, people don't try and do things like that. They just throw it away and buy new. Every person that walked into my store received a personal greeting by name from me. I wasn't high pressure. If they just wanted to come in and look around, that was well and good. I knew they'd come back. I also used an old antique cash register that didn't tell you how much change to give back. I wanted my girls to do that. We would take a personal check, but no plastic. I kept an eye on my stock and knew when to reorder by how well things moved. I didn't need to take inventory. My longtime employees were Norma Herman, Lorraine Halverson, Emma Ingebretson, My sister Tilda Larson and my sister-in-law Louise Vegge, they also helped greet people as they came in. You know, I had a knack for remembering faces and recognizing people immediately, and it stayed with me all my life. I always said I wouldn't remodel my store because that's the way people liked it. I never got a computer. I just called my orders in and gave them the numbers. I would go to market in the spring and fall, and I would look for unique gifts at reasonable prices, as well as searching for hard-to-find merchandise. I wanted to get the most for my money without going overboard. I also didn't buy things that were fads because they were only around a short period. I bought what I thought my loyal customers would appreciate. You know, I loved Christmas, and we had Santa's workshop in the basement of the store, which was convenient for Santa because he was often there. The kids loved it. There was so much to look at, and it was everybody's favorite time of the year. During the 100 class reunion weekend, I was so happy because the wonderful children that grew up shopping here brought their children in to visit with me. I think that's why I liked being in the business. It seemed like they were all family. Of course, I had my nieces and nephews who always came in. They called it Margaret's store. And it's been said, if you can't find it at Margaret's store, you don't need it. One thing about it, I knew everyone that came in, or I got to know them before they left. And I think it cut down on some of the stealing because those kids knew that I knew who their parents were, and I would tell them if that they got caught. I remember once Rick Jowett said to me that he thought that I somehow slipped in numerous questions about him and his family while we were visiting. He said he left feeling like he'd been grilled by Joe Friday or Perry Mason. I did not mean to come off that way. I just enjoy meeting people and finding out about them and their families. One of the most important things in my life was my church, Grace Lutheran. I was a Sunday school teacher, Sunday school superintendent, and I belonged to 2 ladies' circle. My proudest moment was I sang in the choir for 78 years. They gave me a party after church on the day that I retired, just to honor me. Nowadays, younger people don't have any idea how important it is to give of their talents to their church and their community. In 1972, I was chosen as Rock County Woman of the Year by Business and Professional Women's Organization. In 1999, the business people of Laverne nominated me for Minnesota's Outstanding Older Worker. They asked me to come to a coffee party. Well, it was pretty icy out that day, but I went anyhow. That's when they told me that they'd nominated me. Jane Wilding had written a letter of support for me. After some interviews, they asked me, if you're chosen, would you be able to leave your store for a few days and go to Washington, D.C.? Well, I said I had to think about it, but my family said, by all means, go. So I went to Washington, D.C., and we had get-together parties and toured the city by night. We went to the Capitol, the White House, and the Senate. We saw Senators Wellstone and Graham. That Wednesday was the big event where we were all honored. I received a plaque that I kept in my store to share with everyone. In my later years, I sold my house and moved to the Oaks in 2010. I was still going to work every day, and they all got a charge out of me for that. I was the oldest one there, and as I walked to my car, they were drinking coffee. Most of them had been retired 3 decades or more. After work, I like to come home and read, watch religious shows, or Wheel of Fortune. You know, today there's just nothing good on television anymore. I worked until I was 96 years old, and I was planning to retire at the end of August of 2012, but the good Lord had other plans for me. On July 13th of that year, we celebrated the 50th hot dog night in Laverne, and I stayed at the store greeting all my families, as I called them, from days gone by. It must have been a bit much, because I passed away at my apartment at the Oaks on July 16th, 2012. It was a surprise for everyone. I always thought, if I don't get rich, I don't get rich. I was blessed with having good health, and that's a richness. The good Lord has been good to me. My secret to a long life is I eat a little piece of lefse every day. My favorite saying was, success is doing what you love and loving what you do. I had a good life.